Hey everyone.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, folks.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Good morning and good afternoon.
Hello. Yeah, I think we'll start the meeting in 2 minutes, and thank Akash for taking the notes. Yeah, okay, let's start now. So, yeah, the first topic was the announcement added by Susan. So it's called for the proposal to the KubeCon EU in the next year. So I just wonder if anyone have any ideas on the KubeCon. And Fei, do you know we have any like plan on the PM side?
Yeah, by default, I think PM will submit proposals for all of our CNCF projects, but it doesn't matter that we can have proposals from our engineering side, and also we can collaborate with external partners and also community users.
Okay, gotcha.
Are there any scenarios that we would like demonstrated in a proposal? Or any solutions being built that we'd like to bundle in a CFP?
I think that's the thing we're gonna discuss today.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
Because we want to call for any ideas and the proposals that we want to collect from the community and also from different perspectives. Maybe you can click on the CFP to let people know more details about this conference.
Oh, it's during April, so
I didn't know the CFPs were closing in November already.
yeah, so I think if anyone has any like ideas, so we can discuss it. Okay.
Should we start that now?
No, I don't think we it's not so urgent, so I think we can discuss it offline or even we can create some issue.
Oh, sure.
I think Susan added this agenda here is the purpose is to remind people that we can propose anything for KubeCon EU because we are quite close to the deadline. And there's also a list of suggested topics on the KubeCon EU CFP page. I think we can also reference that. Yeah, you can scroll down a little bit. Yeah, this section, the suggested topics. In general, as from my observation, AI and machine learning is always the most popular topic, and it gets the highest acceptance rate by CNCF. So I think if there is something we can connect with this topic, it will be much easier. And also CNCF advocates the diversity of the speakers. So if we can have male and female together to submit a topic, it would be much easier for them to get accepted. And also security. we can reference the security suggestions here.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I think everyone can take a look after the meeting.
Yeah, and there's a template of a CFP, so we can also reference the template. There's a sample submission section in this on this page. Yeah. We can follow this sample to write our own topic if we do want to participate as a speaker.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for explaining. Okay, let's move on to the next topic, the status check for the CNCF onboarding task. See the status already be updated. Sima, is that you or Susan?
Yeah, it was added by me before the
Okay.
meeting. Yeah, I can quickly update the status for these two items. There's some progress happened this week. So for the first item, the DNS transfer, we got response from Microsoft Domain Manager team, and now they should be able to help us transfer the domain from Microsoft to CNCF, but it will cause the website unavailable in a short period because the DNS transfer, we need another provider, CNCF, to help us handle it, and it should be a synchronous manipulation. So we have to confirm a certain time with CNCF and choose when can we implement the domain transferring. My thoughts is that we can start the transferring in later afternoon or in the evening because it will have less impact to the users because at that time the website gets the less traffic. So even it is unavailable, it should not be impact to many users.
How long does it take to finish the migration?
In general, there should be several minutes because it's just a simple clicks on the Ratify portal. But the hard thing here is that we have to associate with two different providers and let them finish the transfer in and transfer out actions as quick as possible.
Payman, what is the scope of the outage? Would it be basically like downloading, like what, like is it only access to the sort of the GitHub repository or like docs or like what's gonna be like the download?
The outage will only be will be only impacted the docs. I mean the Ratify website, ratify.dev.
Okay.
Users can still download
Mm-hmm.
Ratify from GitHub or from the GitHub container registry.
Mm-hmm.
Only the docs, the website will be unavailable, maybe in a short period
I see. So it's only that.
until
Yeah. I mean, I would say, I mean, because you mentioned later in the evening, it's relative to where you are, right? So I would say let's just, if it's gonna take less than an hour, let's just pick a time, maybe put a banner or like some sort of thing in the site that at certain hour this is gonna be unavailable, and then I don't.
yeah, that's a good tip. Maybe we can put any predictions or notice
Yeah,
on the website that we will be transferring the website on the date, and please notice that.
it will be down for maintenance.
Yeah. I think we can add a notice on the banner to let users predict this case.
Also, one more
Okay.
quick question. You mentioned we need to do the transfer in and transfer out two operations. Do we own that operations or not us?
Not owned by us because
Okay,
they are different. There are two different providers. Microsoft Domain Manager team and the CNCF. We can only submit a service ticket to CNCF, and they can help us handle the operations. Susan and I have had an email thread with Microsoft Domain team, and I think we should be able to follow up on this later. And we also need to add a banner to let users know the certain date.
so in the worst case, if one provider delayed their operation, so the outage will be longer than expected.
That's exactly. If another provider like CNCF, if they are not online to operate it, I think the outage will be longer. So
Gotcha.
we want to confirm a certain time with two providers and also add a notice on the website.
Yeah, thank you for following up.
Yeah. Another thing is about the Zoom account transfer. I added an issue link. Would you mind opening it? We can also know the status about the issue. You can click on the notes. Another is actually about the Zoom account migration.
Oh, sorry.
You can look at the notes. Yeah. There's another dependency on CNCF side. We have to wait until CNCF activate the Ratify account in a system, a PPC system. And they mentioned that they will need to register Ratify trademark on behalf of CNCF before they registering Ratify account in the PPC. So we are currently blocked to transfer the Zoom account from Microsoft to CNCF. But I think it doesn't block us to run our community meetings. The only thing we may delay is to configure the live streaming from Zoom to YouTube.
No, I see. Yeah, but we can do that manually.
Yeah, if we can manually upload the recordings.
Okay. Yeah, we will keep following on these two items. Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much, Simon.
Yeah, my pleasure.
For the next item, Yeah, we just want to share the customer feedback on the HA scenario. So this week Susan and Freeman, we had a conversation with one customer on their like use case on the HA scenario. So basically they have a few big clusters, and the largest one has like 5,000 pods. And I remember there are over maybe 1,000 different images in this cluster. And I think their testing is that the in-memory cache is enough for this scenario. So currently they don't use the Redis and Dapper solution, just use the in-memory cache. And also they call out for the multi-arc image validation support. So that's something we might need to support in the future. And Fema, if you can add more like sharing on your side.
Yeah. Would you, as you are sharing the screen, would you mind opening the docs, the meeting notes?
Seems I cannot. Oh yeah.
Is
I
accept?
need to turn on my VPN.
Okay, I can share my screen and also share the Google Docs if you are not convenient.
2 seconds. Okay.
With fast seconds, I think I should grant access permission to.
Maybe it's not Microsoft email. Or maybe I can transfer the host to you and you can share the screen.
Wait 4 seconds. I'm currently grant the access permission. Can you try this link? I just shared in our chat.
Oh yeah. I can. Oh wait, no. Thanks.
Yeah, maybe I can share a bit more about this user. The username is Riskfield. It's a IT vendor based in US, Israel, and maybe also Australia, if I remember correctly. And the user that we interact is based in Israel. So that's the reason that we only involved folks in China and also Australia time zone when we had the discussion with this user. They're running a lot of microservices on Google Cloud and also AWS. They didn't use Azure right now, and they running their microservices on EKS and also use ECR as their container registry. Maybe Bimbi, you can scroll a little bit down. I think I can start from the user environment as the context. Yeah. For signing and verification, they use notation with AWS Signer plugin, and also verification part, they use Ratify with the notation built-in verifier. The current HA solution, as Bimbi mentioned, they prefer to run multiple Ratify instance with in-memory cache instead of using the Dapper and Redis combination with their Ratify, because they don't want to introduce additional maintenance cost and complexity to running additional dependency components. And I remember they have more than 1,000 images in a production cluster. they use Circle CI as their CI pipeline and Argo CD as their CD solution. And also they run jobs, stateful sets, and deployments as their Kubernetes workloads. This is basically the environments that they are running their microservices on a multi-cloud environment. There are something that we can pay attention to. In addition to the HRA solution, I think they also mentioned that initially they failed to verify the images sometimes because their signing behaviors used reverse tag schema by default when they sign the images used in notation. When users use the tag schema to store their signatures, these signatures will be tagged separately in a container registry, and sometimes these tag signatures will be cleaned by their DevOps team because they only keep the tags with main or latest. So this is one thing that they mentioned, and they prefer notation to allow reverse API as the default behavior. We also told them that we will make this as the default behavior on the Notary project side in our next major release. For the future requirements, they mentioned that they have image index, they have multi-arc image stored in the container registry. So they prefer that we can provide an end-to-end solution to allow this user to sign and verify image index. It's actually multi-arc images in their container registry. And I also validated this scenario with Notary project maintainers. Currently, notation can sign an image index in the container registry, but notation cannot sign the platform-specific image manifest, the child image manifest under an image index. So we have to figure out what is the right behavior to sign and verify a multi-arc image. I think this is a thing that we can follow up on both Notary project and the Ratify side. Another follow-up is the HRA solution. They also mentioned a new feature in the gatekeeper. I think is, let me check, is opt out of audit in constraints. I think Akash and Bingbing, you may have more context about this gatekeeper new feature. And they want to use this new feature to run their in-memory cache with gatekeeper. And they also use Prometheus and Grafana to monitor their benchmark testing. And currently, they feel that 2 instances of Ratify with in-memory cache is good enough for there to run their applications. And I also recommended that they can run a benchmark with Ratify again to test the limitations of this configuration, and maybe configure an HPA, a Kubernetes HPA autoscaler for their clusters, and share some performance metrics with us. And at the moment, they don't have any other verifier. They mentioned that there might be any external verifiers used in the future, but at the moment, only notation verifier. That is basically the environment requirements and also the customer asks from risk field. Although this is not an Azure customer, I think their large-scale environment forces us to collaborate and also figure out how can we make the HRA solution much easier and accessible to users
I think Akash has hands up.
Yeah.
Hey, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks, Feynman, Binbin, for asking all of these questions. It's good to see people are now thinking about using Ratify in larger scale solutions. Just a couple of clarification questions. Did they mention, so are they not doing admission control? So at admission time using Ratify to validate, or are they only using audit, or is it the other way around? I'm trying to understand. Are they doing both audit and admission time validation?
I think they are doing both right now.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of the scale, did they talk a little bit about how they do their deployments? Is it that there are a deployment would essentially spin up the entire cluster worth of pods in one get-go, or is it kind of 5,000 pods is across multiple deployments and stateful sets?
For deployment, they didn't mention how they deploy that. I don't think they deploy like 5,000 pods at one time, maybe in batch, but they did mention the audit batch size. So because I remember they mentioned their concern was the audit request, because initially they thought maybe there are like 5,000 requests in 1 minute that might throttle the Ratify, but actually the default batch size was 500. And in that case, their like Grafana shows everything is fine. The CPU and the memory load is pretty low. So, and now they have turned on the deny mode.
I see. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. So I think the reason that 2 pods is sufficient for them is because the actual request load on Ratify is actually not that much, considering that they're not doing 5,000 pod deployments at once, which would be the toughest performance stress testing on Ratify. And then on the audit side, we have obviously the gatekeeper cache. And if the batch size is only 500, then you're dealing with at most 500 requests
Yeah.
at a time. So, yeah, that makes sense.
And we also have a recording that can be shared internally.
Feynman, are they like is this user or customer like would they be able to have a developer or maintainer that can not maintain a developer that could potentially help us with some contributions as we like partner with them and validate their scenarios?
Currently, they mentioned that they are quite interested in collaborating with us in testing any new features. Yeah.
So they would basically expect us to so they would expect the existing contributors to add support for their scenario, and they would just validate it.
Yeah, at the moment, they only shared their scenarios and their interest in testing any new features, and also share feedback with us. But in the future, if they have very heavy dependencies on Ratify and encounter some problems or feature requests, I think they're gonna engage more with the Ratify community.
I see.
In that meeting, we didn't talk further about the contributions because we want to make sure the customer problems are well resolved, and they could be unblocked to test Ratify HA in the production cluster. I think we will need some time to have more trust with the user and engage this user with our community.
Right. I mean, I think even if they are willing to test validate, like test, build, and report issues and provide logs and things like that, that could help. It does seem quite a complex, environment to set up. So
Yeah, and also they running the cluster on AWS. 90% of services on AWS and 10% of on GCP. So I think
Mhm.
they mentioned that they could share any logs and details with us after they running their benchmark internally.
Okay.
ICE has some questions regarding the multi-arc image signing.
Yeah. Yes, for the multi-arc image sign. So currently, notation sign the image digest. So if you manually specify the specific type of image digest, it can be signed. It is just when you sign an image index, it will not sign the platform specific image included in that index automatically. But there is a way to do that if user want to sign individual platform specific image. Actually, I have one question about the problem. They mentioned that sometimes they failed to verify the images due to the reference tag schema, right? Actually, for the notation sign command, I think you know that we have a flag that user can specify the notation sign command to use reference API. I'm not sure whether you mentioned this flag to the user so that they can, before Notary project release the next major version to use reference API by default. Currently, there is a way for them to specify a flag for using reference API. I think if
Yeah,
we can share this flag to them.
they noticed this flag and they use the force refers text schema and turned it to false to use the reverse API. They noticed this workaround.
Okay, great.
They just want to use the reverse API by default as early as possible. I think that is why AWS is pursuing this feature to us on the Notary project side.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, they mentioned
yeah.
Pritesh and Samir as they also collaborated with these folks on the notation AWS Signer plugin.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
I think we can wait this customer to share any performance test, the stress test results with us because they have details with their performance test and they're gonna run a stress test internally. I shared those two tools, the CSS Gen and another tools that we use to run Ratify performance test initially. They will use those two tools to run a stress test internally and share some performance metrics with us. We can also use their metrics as a testimonial for Ratify. That Ratify is qualified for running in a large-scale environment. So let's wait for their response. we can keep in touch with this user. And also they mentioned that if there is a simplified HA solution, maybe without additional dependencies, they are also interested to try it in the future. But currently they will go with in-memory cache at the first step, because this is sufficient for their scale, for their business scale.
Yeah, so for the HA scenario, we might need to remove the depper dependency, and so we can use the Redis directory to remove one component from our system. Yeah, and I think it's awesome that we can handle a large scale cluster in production, and the customers mentioned that there is no like error or failures from the Ratify side. So yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's really a good testimonial if they can successfully run Ratify with in-memory cache in their Kubernetes cluster. We can use it as a case study on the Ratify website after they share some performance metrics with us.
Yeah, and thanks Simon for writing the doc. Okay. Let's move to next topic. I think this is one issue created by Datadog. Okay, it's a new issue. So it's about our plugins, the log message. So I think it says everything was printed to the standard error. Hey Josh, do you have any ideas on this one?
Well, let's see. If I'm remembering correctly, the reason for that is standard out is where that configuration is passed back to the executor. And so if you were to put any other error messages into out, standard out, it would muddy the config that's been passed back, and then the marshalling would get messed up because it's a JSON object that's passed from standard out. And then so that only leaves us with the standard error to log everything.
Okay. So do you think it can be fixed?
Were they like info and stuff not written to standard out? Or what's I didn't look too closely at the issue. What are they proposing?
At least info and debug should be pretty to stand out.
Okay. Yeah, I attempted it. It's possible. It just gets, we'd have to write some special parsing to strip out anything that isn't, it basically becomes a new line parser that we need to add in there to strip out any information and warning messages that might have gotten written to standard out before the configuration objects pass back and attempted to be, is it marshaled or unmarshaled? I always mix this two, but it's possible.
Okay, gotcha. I wonder if you will have bandwidth on this fix.
Maybe, I don't know. Depends on what milestone it goes into.
Yeah, I see. So I think if you don't have a bandwidth, I can take a look and try to fix it.
Okay. But I'm almost certain that's the reason why. We just it was just easier to say, hey, every message is going to go to error, so that way we have a clean object that's coming back from standard out.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. So it's causing issues with Datadog, the agent reading.
I see.
Okay, that's a valid
Yeah.
issue then. I think that brings up another like interfaces thing that we could think about with plugins, instead of passing or relying on standard out. But that'd be a bigger change than parsing it out, parsing the messages apart.
Yes. So I think we need to take a look after the meeting. Yeah.
You have your hand up?
Yes, it seems the author, I mean, the issue also want to implement this fix.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay,
So
catch,
maybe,
I can,
Yeah.
would you mind sending a link to that issue just in chat so I can put it in my notes here quick? And then I'll respond to there and I'll go and find the code where that's at and at least point them in the right direction and then offer assistance if they want to contribute and help to it. I'm more than happy to kind of help them navigate the code base.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Cool. And I remember that another issue. Yeah. So basically we want to add one more annotation to support the EKS. Yeah, I think this is the second issue raised by their team. And they are willing to implement it. So yeah, it's good. Now we have like about 17 minutes left. We can have a quick review on our PRs. So firstly, I add a PR for the Ratify V2 design scope. We already went through the design scopes last week, so I just added the reason or the limitations for each items. So I think we can just take a look offline, not on this meeting, because I don't think we have enough time. It's basically, I think it's very similar to the issue. It's similar to the issue I created last week, but just add more like reasons and limitations and the proposed solutions. For PR, second one, replace SDK with AV identity. Hey, Shuram, do you want to? Yeah.
This is still a draft PR. I'm still working on it, but the bulk of the work is done. I'm just trying to test it on AKS. My previous AKS instance had some issues yesterday. I was trying to create a new one, but I'm having issues with creating one. Apparently, I'm not able to create a new node pool for my new instance. I'm trying to resolve that, but once that is done, once I have an AKS instance, I'll be able to test this new version of Ratify on my AKS.
If you run into too much trouble, just reach out to me. I've got the provisioning stuff down pretty well with some Terraform configurations, and I'm happy to share those. But they're actually in the Ratify repo. They'll just need to be updated a little bit to fit whatever you're doing. But then what I do, anytime I run into any issues, I just destroy the entire thing and rebuild it.
That's what I tried to do. I destroyed my previous AKS instance, but the problem now is I can't create a new one.
Oh, you can't create one.
I just faced it. I probably will be able to fix it today.
Okay. You said node pools. I didn't know you meant like the whole cluster. Gotcha.
I deleted the whole cluster and I tried to create a new one. In the new one, I'm trying to create a new pool for it, but I'm not able to do that at the moment.
Gotcha. It's not able to scale. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just let us know if you have any like new issues.
Sure.
Okay. The CIR fetcher and cache. Junchen, okay. Can you share the progress on SIS2 PS? Do you see any like blockers?
Yeah, so I have resolved the comments in this PR and I have created a new interface for the CIO provider. So the major implementation will be in the CIO, yeah, this draft PR, and I will make it ready for review like in a couple of hours to make some finalization. Yeah, and I have included the implementation of the integration of the revocation configuration for the verifier. So it's very close to the internet.
Cool. So basically after these two PRs are merged, we may have just one PR remaining. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the next one will be related to the end-to-end testing.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And okay. Hey, Josh, do you want to share progress?
Yeah. So I addressed all the comments. I created them initially in a bunch of different branches, but it wasn't too big, so I merged them into here. The only thing that's blocking me now is code coverage. I'm not sure how it's calculated because both the things that I added have like 88% code coverage. So I think I need to add a little bit more. I think if you look at the bottom, the latest one, it's like 77. All the way down at the bottom, like the most recent checks.
Yeah,
That was
probably
from-
system one, it decreased the coverage. Yeah, the KMP.
Gotcha. Yep, I've got a couple of those I can push. So once that coverage is there, I think it's ready for a final glance over and merge. So I addressed remove from cache comment, the bool that you mentioned, bin, and then the single call. So one quick question, if we've got a minute. With the single call, what I did was I attempted to use get certificate, and then if it failed, so yeah, if you look at the provider and the key vault, you'll be able to see it. I think it's like 150, 160 or something. I'll let you pull it up. Yeah, right here, essentially. So what it does is it does get the detailed error and looks for the exact code of secret disabled. So that's more specific. But I do make a second call if it fails with disabled to get certificate. And the reason for that is to get the version number from it. I thought it would be a bad user experience, if the cache version for disabled was empty, because then you wouldn't know which version was disabled. So I do make a call there, so that there's technically two calls, but it only happens if the secret is disabled, versus the other way, which it would always do two calls. So I just wanted to make sure everybody's okay with that, or if we care to omit the version if the user passes in an empty string. So yeah, just thoughts there. That's kind of the only lingering question that I have. Or if that made sense, let me know if you need me to clarify.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. So when users specify empty version, so what's the behavior in this case?
It'll still grab whatever version it is. So if you don't specify one, the status still will give you it, even if it's the latest. So let me rephrase that. If you don't specify the version, you give an empty string, it will update the status with the latest version's value.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. And the reason that you can't, no, never mind. I'll stop there. That's not relevant to this one.
Yeah, I think I'll take another look after me.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get the coverage patched up, and then it should be good.
Yeah, it's pretty close, and the test coverage, it's also very close to 80%. Should be
better than it was at 30. I think the original commit for this must have been done before the code coverage was there, because my first commit had, I think, 30% code coverage.
Yeah, that's huge increase. Cool. Thank you.
No problem.
Last one, I think there is no update yet. Yeah, well, I think in the last PR review meeting, Shuren will keep following with this person. Yeah. Okay, we have everything covered. Cool. Yeah. Anyone have new topics?
Something neat I wanted to just, I don't know, throw out there. So I've been working with the WebAssembly stuff. I don't know if anybody's been following that too closely, but WebAssembly components. So it's basically it's a binary form that you can compile a bunch of different languages to: Rust, Go, JavaScript, and so forth. And they just created an OCI artifact for the components. And so what I'm tinkering with is setting that up with notation and then Ratify, because they have different platforms now that allow you to deploy the components to Kubernetes. And so in theory, it should be able to work for WebAssembly out of the box because it's just now an OCI artifact. So I'll report back with my findings, but it should work in theory. So, but that'll be interesting.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Have been
Josh
thanks
is-
for running the. Oh, go ahead, Vayman.
I just wanna confirm with Josh the scenarios that Josh is currently verifying. So Josh, you are verifying the signature of the WebAssembly modules
Mhm.
in the OCI registry.
Yep.
I see. It's an promising scenario.
I think so. It's getting a lot of traction. It's still relatively new technology, but it's got a lot of promise.
Yeah. Will you write something like a blog post or
I totally should.
article
That's a great
to-
idea.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Go ahead, Susan. I disrupted you.
Thank you, Vayman. Yeah, I was gonna just I missed the first half of the meeting, but I think we already covered the customer feedback on HA. I'll just follow up on the recording.
Yeah,
But
we
I
discussed
want
the
to ask Vayman, did we have a discussion around the audit intervals and the chunks and like the gatekeeper configurations?
not yet.
Okay, cool. I just want to, while we have Akash on the call, like I want to double check with Akash, like when we did the performance test, did we turn on the audit interval from Gatekeeper, and what was the chunk size? Because that was brought up in the customer meeting.
Yeah, so we did have audit enabled and it was the default 60 seconds, so more aggressive than users usually set because they override that value to be longer. The chunk side was also set to 500 because the test was actually focusing in on the more performance heavy scenario, which was admission time. Because if you're deploying like a 10,000 pod deployment, the large number of requests are going to come through admission. And with audit, it's not as much of an issue because of the 60-second interval, the 500 batch, and then also the cache, the 3-minute cache that happens as well. So that's why the performance testing was focused mainly on the admission scenario. But it did include the audit as well.
Got it. Thank you. From the performance, like how we conducted the performance test, Akash, if there's all this audit and, like happening per chunk happening, how do you keep track of failures? Like, is there like a dashboard or aggregated statistics from Gatekeeper that says, oh, how many audit failed? Anything like that?
So there isn't there are, first of all, there's metrics at the gatekeeper performance level that are emitted similar to how we emit metrics. That's purely based on how well the audit pod. So they have actually only a single pod that is dedicated to performing the audit checks. That itself is a bottleneck. But regardless of that, they export the audit violations to like a data source, and that data source is usually either a file that you can consume, or if you're using like a managed cloud provider like Azure, that gets piped through to the Azure policy type of setup.
Yeah.
So you can kind of tell based off of that how many in that audit interval, how many resources were compliant versus non-compliant. And in there, they'll have the reason as well as to why it was non-compliant. So if it was like a failure from Ratify, let's say Ratify was unreachable or something like that, then I think that log would show up in that violation message.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the other question that I had from the customer interaction, like one thing I forgot to ask is, did they want to fail open or fail closed? Like, are they using our default template, which Binbin, I think our default template fails closed. Is that correct?
Yes, the default behavior is fail closed.
Yeah, do we know if they have a requirement to fail open or closed?
Actually, they didn't know about this concept, so I already sent the link to them, and they will check it out.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you.
Just to
Go ahead.
clarify, there's actually two levels of failing closed and open. There is the gatekeeper failing closed and open, which is when gatekeeper itself fails to validate for whatever reason. Then that is a flag that you can set in the CRD for gatekeepers, external data provider, I believe. There's also what in our own template that we set the fail closed, where if we get some sort of like
Error.
some error, yeah. And we currently will throw that as a failure as a violation instead of as a system. It shows up as a system error essentially. So those are two different levels of failing opening and closed.
Yeah. Is it worth documenting this on our website?
It is. I think it is. It's just we should probably do that.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, let's create a tracking issue for that. Yeah, because I feel like if people are turning this on in their production system, like, audit doesn't block anything, but if they're doing the deny effect, we have to be crisp clear on when there's error, what's expected.
Yeah. And this was a while ago, but I remember because we enable both mutation and validation, the mutation has the gatekeeper side of failing open and closed is set at either at the validation level or at the mutation level. So I believe those are two separate configuration flags. And there was some issue where I was running into where if you didn't set one of them correctly, they don't behave the same way. So if, let's say, Ratify was unavailable for mutation, it would fail close in a different way where if it failed when on the validation request. So these are things we need to kind of flush out now.
Agreed. Akash, I'm wondering if you have bandwidth to write this piece of documentation. Not immediately, but more like towards the end of the year.
Yeah, I can as things get quieter, I can try to pick this one up too. Yeah, I'll file the issue on the docs repo and then take it from there.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all I had. Thanks for running the meeting, Binbin.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Everyone. Thank you.
See you later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.